Good evening, Drew.
The Drew you know doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
this is
oh.
new Drew. This is new Drew.
New
This is
Drew?
new
Hi,
Drew.
new
You don't
Drew.
you don't know. I don't even know this
Okay,
Drew anymore after this week. Um,
okay,
we'll
okay.
save it towards the end of the show. But I've become everything
Okay.
I hate, and yeah. I
Okay.
mean, we could do it now.
Uh,
You want to
let's
just
just
do
do
it
it now.
now?
Let's do it now.
Okay.
Let's do it now. Let's do it now.
So um I made a lifestyle decision this week.
Oh, a lifestyle
Yeah.
decision.
Um I drive a pickup
Okay.
truck now.
You what?
I drive I'm a pickup truck guy now.
You own okay,
I own
you
a
own a
pickup truck.
pickup truck? You
Yep.
own a pickup
Yep.
truck.
I got
What the
myself
hell?
some
What?
Raise Hale and Praise Dale stickers. I got hats, I got dip, I got, you know, beard's really coming in better now. Like a large part of my testosterone has unlocked itself. It's like dislodged itself in parts of me that I didn't know was there. And now I have this nice pickup truck that really lets everybody know that I'm a proud Central Ohioan.
um, uh, uh, I
It's not
don't
a
even know
joke.
what to
This
say.
is not a joke.
Okay. How did you end up with the pickup? What? I talked to
Uh-huh.
you last week. What the
Yeah,
hell
I
happened
know.
to
I
you?
told you I've become everything I hate. Okay, so here's what happened.
Okay.
Um, frequent listeners to the show will know that over the summer I bought, one of my dream cars, right? Like I bought
Mhm.
my BMW and
You
it's a
did. Hmm.
convertible and it's great. Over the past few weeks, it has been bitterly cold in Ohio. We finally
Hmm.
had some snow. I mean, I would say it's been a relatively mild January here in Ohio, with rain that just doesn't seem to want to stop. But we did
Yeah.
have some snow
Yeah.
and everything, and look, I knew when I bought that car that it wasn't made for the winter time. I mean, I'm being kind when I say that yes, it does have all-wheel drive, but it doesn't have the right tires. It's a pretty low car. Like it's not really designed to be out in the snow and the salt, and it's just not. It's not.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew that when I bought the car, but I sort of hedged a little bit that maybe it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. If the weather was going to be bad, I would just stay home. I wouldn't do anything. But that's just not realistic. Emergencies happen. I like to still go to the gym even when the roads are a little bit slippery or icy or whatever. So, it's been weighing on me a lot that I was going to have to get a third car. Something that could be more of a daily driver, something that I could use to sort of toot around and, go do stuff. But as I started to think about this seriously, I realized that I wanted the pendulum to swing so far in the other direction of what I owned that I started looking at trucks because
Yeah. I mean, if you had to pick the exact opposite of your car,
yeah,
I'd go
yeah.
truck. Yeah.
And granted, the cars that I had owned before my current BMW M4 were sedans, right? I mean, they had fold down seats. Like I could
Yeah.
get, if I went to Micro Center and bought like a ostentatious computer case that came in a big box, like I could put my seats down, I could put it in the back, wouldn't be a big deal. Um, but I was never going to put bags of mulch or dirt or tools or ladders or plywood or stupid shit that I would have to go get for my house in there, right? My wife drives a Subaru Forester. It has been great for running to the hardware store and buying things. Like we bought a grill last summer and the whole box fit in her car. Like it really hasn't been a huge issue. But like I was saying, if I was going to do this, I wanted something that had capacity, right? Because my M just doesn't. It has a back seat. I can count on one hand the number of times I've had people in the back seat. It does have a trunk. Um, but it's not a very big trunk. Like if I was a golf player, could I get a golf bag in the back? Sure, but I'm not going to get two golf bags in the back. I could get golf bags in the back. I could put my, I've driven to the airport in it. I could put a suitcase in there and like my computer bag and stuff, but like that's really sort of pushing it. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is that the whole renting a car experience and driving and everything just really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I want the ability to get on the road and get down to visit my parents if I had to in a pinch. Could the M do that? Sure, depending on the time of year. It's not going to get great gas mileage or anything like that. So it was in the spirit of everything I just said that I've just sort of been casually looking over the past month for some sort of third vehicle that I can buy. My sort of dream scenario was to buy a used Toyota Tacoma 6-speed, that I could just,
Okay.
again, just beat the shit out of and just keep in my driveway or keep somewhere, I don't know where, and have it for those scenarios where I do need something where I can throw shit in the back, or I need to drive a considerable distance and I know it's going to be reliable and I know that it's going to be good in weather or, whatever I need it to be. So I started looking around. And I looked at like CarMax, I looked at different dealerships for used cars and everything. And like when I was factoring in, used cars and everything, I was looking for something that didn't have super high miles, that, was in relatively good shape and, was a Toyota Tacoma. And what I quickly discovered is that even high mileage, right? And when I say high mileage, I mean 70, 80, sometimes even 90,000 miles. Toyota Tacomas that were 4 or 5 years old were still going for $24,000 or $25,000. The used car market, especially for trucks right now, is just really, really weird. So, that was discouraging because like I didn't want to spend a lot of money. This was going to be a third car. It doesn't have to be something super nice, right? Like I don't need a ton of options. I just need it to be an car to get around in. So I was looking at
Okay.
used Subarus. I was looking at used Hondas. I was looking at all sorts of different things. But again, that practicality piece of having some haulage capacity kept coming back into my mind. Now, there is a truck that sort of ticks all of those boxes. And it is a very popular little new truck. Here's what I bought.
Okay.
It's
Waiting
coming
for the link.
It's coming. So this is what I bought.
Okay. Yeah, that's
truck.
Look at that.
All right.
Barely.
So what are you looking at there, Paul?
That is that's an itty bitty little bed. So cute. It's so cute. I just want to pick it up and give it a hug.
It's a 4.5 foot bed. What? But tell the audience what you're looking at.
It is a 2024 Ford Maverick.
Yeah.
XLT.
So I ended up buying a Ford Maverick. So I'll forgive you because I know you're not a truck guy like me. I will. I'll sort of give you the details. All right. So what is this? It's cute, right?
Cute.
So again, right, when I was sort of pricing out used cars, they were landing anywhere in the $20,000 to $30,000 price range. Now, a Ford Maverick is a departure from what modern pickup trucks have become. You don't say because again, I'm not speaking out of turn here when I say that there's these monstrous Dodge Rams and Ford F-150s that are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I'm 5'9" in heels, and I don't think you could see me over the hood if I walked in front of some of these trucks, especially like people when they lift them and put them on big tires and all this other shit. Now, what Ford has realized is that there is a market for a smaller truck. And they're not the only ones. There's also the Hyundai Santa Cruz. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, that is sort of in the same price bracket, same sort of segment as the Ford Maverick. Like these are the two sort of things that are selling to this small truck market right now. The Santa Cruz was a hard pass for me for two reasons. One, the bed is even smaller than this. It's more targeted to like campy, outdoorsy type people who need just like, a relatively small bed to throw some gear in the back versus someone who wants more of a conventional truck. Plus, the interior controls on the Santa Cruz are all like capacitive touch, and I don't want any part of that, right? Like I don't want any part of that. I mean,
it's kinda
there's
gross.
a difference between having like a touch screen and having like no buttons for like your HVAC controls and all that other shit. So like no, hard pass.
You gotta have some buttons. Yeah.
So the Ford Maverick. This is the only other sort of vehicle in this segment, and as you can tell, it brand new starts at $26,000, which is relatively cheap for a truck. Now again, this
it's relatively cheap for any vehicle
it really truly is. Now, the one I bought was not that expensive, but it wasn't much more than that. Because mine is a little bit optioned out. But anyway,
so cute.
Why do you keep laughing at me? It is cute.
So
cute. It is a little bit bigger than it looks, though, and I'll sort of explain why in a minute. So, this is a 4-door, or what they call a super. I know you're not a truck guy like me, but this is a super cab, which means it has 4 doors. So it can. I'm a little reluctant to use the word comfortably seat 4 adults, but it could seat 4 adults. Now I'm a shorter individual, so like if you're a tall person or a larger person, you probably want to sit behind me. But it has a 4.5-foot bed. It can come with all-wheel drive, not 4-wheel drive, but all-wheel drive as in one of the options, which is an option that mine has. But other than that, there are various trim levels to the Maverick. So if you're still on that link that I sent you and you go to build in price and then do your own build, there's basically 3 trim levels to this truck. There is the XL, which is like absolute bottom of the barrel, 4 doors, an engine, and a steering wheel, like truck. Okay. And then there's the XLT, which is the mid-level trim, which is what I have. You can get that in their 4-cylinder EcoBoost engine or a hybrid. And then there's the Lariat, which is like the really kind of sauced up version of the truck, leather seats, heated seats, heated steering wheel, more power options, like, stuff that like more modern vehicles have. So the one I went with was the XLT, and it has the bigger wheels, and that is about it. The only option that my truck has is all-wheel drive. It did come with a trailer hitch, but that is the only thing that my truck has. Now, when I say this is basic ass truck, like you get in this thing, it doesn't have power seats. It doesn't have dual zone climate control. It doesn't have a lot of things, right? But here's what it does have. It has
the cutest little
it has a truck bed. It has Apple CarPlay standard. Even though it has a really, really small screen, it's got Apple CarPlay. It has a backup camera. Not a really good one, but it has a backup camera. That's it. That's all it has. That is literally all I need out of this third vehicle. There's an awful lot of plastic in this truck, like an awful lot of plastic on the inside of this truck. Now, but it drives really nice. It's peppy. It doesn't have remote start, but it does have an app, because everything has an app now where I can remote start the truck, which is kind of nice. It has an actual key, like an actual key that you put into the ignition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I have not had a vehicle that has had a key in probably a decade. Now I think like the Lariat has some options where you can have keyless entry and keyless start, but my truck doesn't have that. But yeah, it is an truck. And then, you're saying it looks cute and it looks small and everything. I think it's a great size. I can get my rifle cases in the back. I've had it out quite a bit since I picked it up earlier this week. And these things are really, really hard to get. So they're extremely popular because of the price, obviously, and because I think people are just interested in buying smaller trucks. Like that is like, if you go and read reviews, like Car and Driver, Consumer Reports, Edmunds, like if you go out and you start reading reviews of this truck, they're all exceptionally positive because they're not these huge 40, 50, 60, even like $70,000 trucks that don't necessarily get great gas mileage. And, I'm sorry, like there's a lot of Ford F-150s in my neighborhood, that look like they're really nice trucks. I've never seen them haul anything. I've never seen them tow anything, right? More of a status symbol thing,
Right.
much like my BMW M, but appealing to a whole different demographic, right? But it's just like people want trucks, but trucks are really expensive. They've gotten really big. With this particular truck, Ford has realized that, people don't have all the money in the world to throw at something that, if were like a general contractor, you just needed something to throw some tools in or run to the hardware store or something like that, or just have something that is relatively practical. You really can't do better than this segment, right? And like the Santa Cruz is in it too, but it just doesn't have the same bed. Like it has an even smaller bed. This is a 4.5-foot bed. And then there are options to increase its capacity. So like, my particular model, you could have gotten a 4K tow package, which takes the total capacity of the truck from like 1,500 pounds to 4,000 pounds. So it like has upgraded springs and shocks and, integrated like brake controller for if you want to haul a trailer or something. But again, don't need any of that. It would have been nice to have, but I don't need any of that. But these have been really hard to get. So traditionally, you would go to a Ford dealer, you would order one of these, spec'd out the way you wanted. Average wait times, I've heard, are anywhere from like 4 to 8 months to have it delivered. I was operating on a slightly accelerated time scale, and if one wasn't available, I probably would have just bought some used truck or something. But there was one that somebody had ordered that they didn't end up wanting, and it was sitting on a lot out in London, Ohio. I went out there last weekend. I test drove it. I was really curious what it felt like to drive. It honestly feels like I'm just driving my wife's Forester. It drives more like a car than a truck. It's got a little 4-cylinder, but it's peppy. I had it up to 75 on 70 and it was fine. Like it wasn't shaky. I didn't feel like I had like, some huge powerful thing that I was driving. Like it felt like a really nice car to drive. So, I talked to him about it and, thought about it a little bit and talked it over with the wife. And it was like, it would be nice to have this. So I didn't have to rely on her car as much, especially for stuff that I want to do on weekends or whatever. And even when it's, the weather's not super nice. So I'm a truck guy now. I have this little truck. Now, just like, the automotive automotive press has been kind of breathless about this particular truck. Real truck people hate this fucking thing. They love to make fun of it. A lot of people don't consider it to be a real truck. It's always really funny to read people commenting on like posts on Car and Driver or Motor Trend or Edmunds or different car buying forums on Reddit about how like this isn't a real truck. Like, a lot of people look at it and say it's a unibody. There's no way a unibody can be a serious truck. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
I have no idea, Drew.
Okay, so like your car, my car, most cars are what they call unibody, meaning that the body and the chassis, like the thing that like connects the wheels to the powertrain and everything, is one solid piece, right? Like that's just how it's manufactured.
Okay.
Trucks are usually body on frame, meaning that like the actual body, like the cab and the bed and everything are sort of bolted onto the chassis where the powertrain is. So that gives you more like flexibility for hauling larger loads. It's, you can put more effective springs and dampeners on it to like make it a more versatile off-road vehicle or towing vehicle or whatever. These trucks aren't that. They're more unibody, right? They're constructed the same way that most cars are. So, purists, if you will look at them and say, well, that's not a truck. Well, buddy, look, I got a 4.5-foot bed. Like, say what you want. Say what you want from your Dodge
Right.
Ram that I've never seen you put anything in the bed of. Like, you can call my truck not a truck all you want, but I'm, my truck hauls air just as well as yours does. Like, it's fine. Like, I got all the air hauling capacity I can. So I have it at home now. I do need to take it back to the dealer because the one thing that it doesn't have is it doesn't have any kind of bed liner right now. You can get them built to order with one, but the dealership that I talked to works with a local sort of bed liner installer where they do aftermarket sprays. They put down like that rough material so it doesn't scratch or harm the paint or anything. So I'm taking it back this week to have that put on. But yeah, it's and then I need to buy like a tonneau cover for it. And I will say this, like now that I'm a truck guy, I'm totally here for all the crazy modifications you can do to this thing. So the last thing I would say that's really, really interesting about this truck is that Ford has completely leaned into sort of the do-it-yourself, save money nature of what this truck represents. So there is a lot about this truck that you can modify yourself. So like for example, if you're on the link that I sent you originally, and you sort of scroll down to the flex bed storage system, what that essentially means is that in the back of the truck, there are a lot of mounting locations to mount your own hardware, your own hooks, your own latch systems, things like that. But there's also a little QR code in there that if you scan will take you to this page where Ford basically gives you the dimensions for like, if you want to put 2x6s or 2x4s in your truck bed to create like your own cargo system, like your own cargo management system, like you could do that. If you want to 3D print accessories for the interior of the truck, here's some STL files, right? Like it totally gives you the flexibility to modify the truck the way you want. Like I said, it has CarPlay. It's not wireless, obviously. But I got my phone plugged in there, paired it up, works exactly like every other CarPlay system I've ever used. The seats are really comfortable. They're cloth, but they're super comfortable. Yeah, I mean, I'm a truck guy now, Paul.
I'm speechless, absolutely speechless. I would never have guessed Drew buys a truck ever. I just never would have thought. You know what? If you're happy,
yeah.
Am
I happy? Have I ever been happy? Have you ever known me to be happy? I don't know if happy is the term that I would use. Yeah, okay, but like for years, I would proclaim that I would never be an American car owner, but here we are.
Yeah. You definitely took a big. It's dramatically.
Yeah, it is extremely different. But it's fun, man. I'm enjoying it. I obviously keep it parked in the driveway because we only have a 2-car garage. Like that is a regret that I have from when I bought my house, that I knew that one day I would probably have 3 cars. Blessed, but I don't really have a place to put this other than my driveway right now, but it's all good. So yeah, next time you come over, you'll have to check it out. It is and truck. And so again, one little weird quirk about this truck. When you want to select gears, there's a little dial. That takes some getting used to. Oh, and here's the other thing I would say. Every car I've owned in the last decade has had blind spot assist. This doesn't have that. And it's really, really jarring to go to not having it, right? Especially in a car you're not used to driving. That's a little bit bigger than other cars that you've driven. It's now, fortunately, the visibility in this thing is fucking phenomenal. Like you can see everything around you, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, it's kind of jarring to not have that after you've had it for so long. So yeah, old Drew is dead. Long live Drew. He's a truck guy now. So I'll have you call me Mr. Truck is what you can call me, Mr. Truck.
Mr. Truck.
Okay. But
well, Mr. Truck. As of approximately 9:30 a.m. this morning, my son is now a licensed driver.
So I saw this show up as a late ad. And I think it dovetails nicely into the previous conversation.
Yes,
is he interested in a truck?
No, I don't. He's gonna get my wife's current car, her Santa Fe.
Okay.
So,
what's Mrs. Baylor going to get?
She's gonna buy a car. I don't know what she's gonna do. She's shopping primarily based on aesthetics, primarily color.
She should really get a truck.
Well, she doesn't want a truck. She wants an SUV. She really likes this gray color that Kia has, but we're not buying a Kia.
Yeah, you don't want to get it stolen.
Even then, like, even though like it wouldn't be necessarily like stealable because it's push button start. We called our insurance agent, and he might as well just have laughed at us. He's like, yeah, like so many insurance companies now just won't cover them. Doesn't matter whether it's like actually easily stealable or not. They just say no.
Which one was she looking at? Was she looking at the Telluride?
I don't know. I don't know which one it was. I don't remember. But I don't know. She's gonna go test drive some cars tomorrow, I think. So
cool.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, my son, he aced.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
He got no points.
Okay, now hold on. Perfect score.
Perfect.
I retook my driver's test, and I think I still like barely passed.
I did that. Yes, I had to take my maneuverability part 2 times, and I barely passed. He 0 points off. Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect score.
Wow. Mm-hmm. First of all, tell your son to save some pussy for the rest of us. And second of all, so he's licensed now. He's gonna have his own little car. He's gonna turn into the band guy that he's been relying on other band guys for a while.
Yep.
Good for him. Was he nervous?
I think he was a little bit, but from what he said, the proctor, I don't know, the person who gives the test, I guess she was really nice and joking with him.
The marshal, the driving marshal.
The driver marshal, was real, like, just joking with him, was really nice, and I think that just kind of calmed him down. And but he did it. He did it.
Man, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They grow up so fast, Paul.
I know. It's crazy.
So you took him to the place, took him to the BMV.
Jennifer did all of it. She did the whole thing. I was still in bed when it happened. So yeah.
Okay. So Jennifer took him. He got it done. He gets home. Did you guys do a little celebration or anything?
Nah, he didn't really want to do too much. I did force him to, we have that little convenience store down the street.
Oh, where the pizza is.
Yeah, where the pizza is. And I basically was like, go buy me a Dr. Pepper.
Nice. Power move, buddy. Power move.
He took his sister, but like, I just wanted him to like, okay, like get in the car and drive without a parent. Go.
Okay. All right.
Because you have to do
ulterior
that at some
motive.
point.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted him to get out, but he didn't go out and celebrate or anything. He just kind of just stayed home and played video games. So, yeah.
Man, good for Zach. Is there anything that kid can't do?
I don't know, man. So far, not. So,
man, what a good guy. Now, is there, again, not being a parent, right? It's weird for me to ask, but like, is there a certain healthy amount of fear that is coming with this?
Oh,
okay.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because, like, you can't, I mean, you can't control everything, and but I mean, he's a good kid. So
yeah, it's more. It's gonna. I feel fine. Like you would have to worry more about the other people than him on the road.
Yeah. And I know, like, I mean, we've been driving for decades, so you get kind of good at it, and you learn what to look out for, and what And he doesn't have any of that. But then again, neither did I when I was, his age, and I somehow survived.
But it's interesting, right? Because I feel like there's so much more technology these days than we ever had when we were getting our licenses. So do you encourage him to keep like his location shareable with you, or is there technology in the Santa Fe that can report location or anything, or?
Yeah, we do all of that. So like Find My and stuff like that, so we know where he is. He's got to check in and stuff like that. So with stuff he's already been doing when he's out with his other friends, that will continue to be true. And like they have restrictions on new teenage drivers in Ohio. Like he can't drive between like midnight and 6 a.m. unless he's going to work.
I think I had something like that too.
Yeah. He can only have one non-family member in the car unless there's also a parent present. So like he can't load up with his friends. But that all goes away when he's 18, which will be in a few months. So I know.
Oof.
Yeah.
So last question then.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be, so he's in band. So
Mhm.
that kind of gives him a pass to drive to school, or do they let anybody drive to school?
They'll let anybody drive to school. You just have to register and say, "Hey, this is my vehicle." But
Yeah, so like when I was
yeah,
in high school, I mean,
yeah.
we had a pretty big parking lot, but just because you had your license, you weren't allowed to drive to school. You either had to be like, you either
Mm.
had to be in a sport or like an extracurricular activity like band, or you had to
Oh,
or you
okay.
had to be working. So like the only way I got my parking pass is because I had a job after school. So like I had to have like
Got
my
it.
my job like send a note to school to say yes, Drew works here. He needs to be here by 4:30 or whatever. So like I was able to get a parking pass that way. So yeah. So
Hmm.
and I think
No,
like
no.
I don't know if Dublin does that too because like their parking lot is always packed, and I feel like not every kid gets a parking pass.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like that at my son's school. Like the parking lot does get pretty full, but like from what he was saying, he's like, yeah, you just gotta, register and say, make, model, license plate. Here you go, uh, and then
Okay.
you're good. So I don't. It's I guess depending on if my wife successfully buys a car tomorrow or not, he may drive
Nice.
himself to school tomorrow. So or on Monday. So we'll
Nice.
see.
I'm excited to hear what
Ah,
Jennifer buys. I mean,
mhm.
I'm in full. I mean, she should buy a truck. That way, this whole
She's
this whole truck culture thing really has its claws into me.
she's not going to buy a truck. She's gonna buy an SUV.
Got it.
So I think she's gonna go test drive a Chevy Blazer
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay.
So let's start
Okay.
with. So yeah, mostly because there's a Chevy dealership like really close to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see.
All right.
Hey,
Couple other quick topics for tonight. So I had to take another certification test.
oh, and passed.
I passed.
Woo!
But
What are you
but
certified in
barely.
that? Barely. Oh, hey, barely counts.
Yeah. So this was something that was a personal goal of mine where I work. So I think again, frequent listeners to the show will know that I had to take some other certification exams as part of like my actual job earlier this year. They were all Databricks specific. They were around data engineering, they were around data science and machine learning and things like that. They were perfectly fine. I mean, I totally aced the data engineering one. I was super worried about the machine learning one because that's just not something I had done a lot of work on before. But as I've done more work with it and studied for that, it's gotten better. But one of the things that I really wanted to do when I changed jobs after leaving Microsoft is one of the things that was appealing about coming to Databricks is that it runs in all three public clouds. So that gave me an opportunity to like stretch my legs a little bit, go learn more like AWS and Google Cloud and things like that. So I had a personal objective in this fiscal year to get more familiar with AWS. And it wasn't
Okay.
like explicitly stated that I had to go get a certification to do that, but it sort of happened where like there was a call for volunteers that wanted to get certified to have that done by the end of January. This was back in November, and like November Drew was way more ambitious than January Drew. Um,
I get that. Yeah.
yeah, so like I didn't even really start studying this until January, and then like with the looming deadline, and then of course like things got crazy busy at work, and I just wasn't able to like study during the day. So I spent a lot of after hours like sort of studying this, and like I created my own AWS account, and I really started to get in there and play with it. Um, it was a really really hard exam. I mean, I did pass. It was the AWS Solutions Associate, which is sort of like their mid level. There's one before that, and then there's like a professional one after that. But this was the associate level, and look, if you're considering getting that certification, definitely hit me up for some advice because it was really really hard. I was not convinced that I was going to pass on the first try. Now, again, when I worked at Microsoft, we had to take all sorts of certification exams. Every year there was like a certification requirement. Some years there were 2 certification requirements. It depended like what your specialization was, what area you were in, what you liked working with. Like you had an expectation that you were going to get those certifications, but it being Microsoft, like you had access to practice exams and training material, and you had access to the whole thing. For the AWS stuff that I was doing, I mean, I was pretty much on my own. AWS itself has a thing called Skill Builder that you can sign up for. It's like $20 a month, and it basically gives you access to every training material, exam prep, all this other stuff that they give you. I'm not trying to throw shade, but the Microsoft Academy, like the Microsoft Learn, and all the things that they give you are really like great. Like they're very prescriptive in like examples and hands-on labs, and like they give you a place to do that. The Skill Builder stuff that I did not. It was basically a woman just in a monotone voice reading all the topics that you needed to know for the exam. And it was like, this sucks. But it did have a practice exam. There was a lot. And again, like when I got my first Azure certification, it was like Azure Core, right? You had to know about virtual machines. You had to know about, virtual networking. You had to know a little bit about a security and identity, and just like an absolute bare minimum of things like storage accounts, like just this complete Azure Core, right? Like the stuff that everybody sort of starts out in Azure. AWS, on the other hand, throws the entire kitchen sink at you. Oof. You have to know like almost every AWS product. You have to know every like modern architecture, right? Like decoupled microservice like architecture type stuff. They will throw questions about Kubernetes at you. There were questions about Elastic Container Services. Like, wow. And again, I've been working with technology for a long time. I've dabbled in a lot of these things. So like I'm able to sort of reason through some of the questions and give you best guess estimates of what I think should happen. But like, I don't know the difference between, AWS Elastic Container Services with EC2 instances versus Fargate instances. Like, I don't know that. I don't know the nuances of private VPCs with transit gateways. Like, the fuck is that? Like, I don't work with AWS enough to feel comfortable knowing all the different like products. And that was like a huge disadvantage because, again, I thought it was going to be like core. I thought it was going to be like know about EC2, know about networking, know about availability zones, know about regions. But it's like I was getting questions like, your developers are deploying an application that serves static images and you need to provide the fastest image loading time. And then it was like, use CloudFront distribution with origin header settings for S3. And I'm like, the fuck is this? But I mean, I get it, right? It's like, I know like that's important to know, but it was so hard. And it wasn't just like even knowing the different technologies and the different products and services that AWS provides. Like you kind of had to go to like the 200, sometimes 300 level to get to some of the answers. And like, again, I've taken a lot of certification exams in my day. And like my strategy has always been read the question very carefully, because especially with this cloud certification stuff, one of the main pillars of all 3 clouds when they talk about like their well-architected framework is cost optimization. So like technically, like all the things they throw at you, unless it's like a complete left field answer, all probably work, but one's going to be cheaper than the other. And usually that's the right answer, right? Because if they want you to march towards that well-architected framework where it's like, yeah, sure, I could spin up an EC2 VM that runs 24/7 and cost me thousands of dollars, or I could use a Lambda function that runs on demand and is pennies on the dollar, right? Like that's the kind of shit they want you to suss out. But like when I go through these exams, I spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes max on a question. And if I can't suss it out, if I can't figure out what the answer is, I mark it for review and I move on, right? And I go to the next one, same thing. If I can't figure it out, I mark it for review and move on. I don't dwell on it the whole time. And then when you get to the end of the exam, you can go back and look at the ones you reviewed. And it's just like, it's a guessing game. But like when I got to the end of this exam, I probably had 15, 16 questions that I marked for review. And like pass is like a 72%. And I'm like, I don't know the answers to these, and these are well beyond missing all of the questions. So, I sort of just, again, logically sort of reasoned it out from what I remember studying, from what I remember seeing in other practice exams. Just kind of went through it. And then I got to the end, and then it was like, we'll let you know in 5 days what your results were.
Ooh,
And I'm like,
that's
do you guys not use the internet? Like, do you know,
yeah,
like, do you guys not have
these
computers?
These are on computers.
Yeah, I did this on a computer. Like, someone doesn't have to
Yeah.
grade this. Now, I didn't have to wait 5 days. Like, my exam time was like at 9 a.m. I got done around 11, and I think I had my answers around 3.
Okay.
And I passed. I didn't pass overwhelmingly. Like, I think I had like a 2 or 3 question cushion. But that was easily the hardest certification exam I think I've ever done. Did I learn things about AWS in the process? Absolutely. But it was pretty intense. And again, when you look at the Microsoft certifications, like, they have Azure, administrators, they have Azure security, they have data and AI, they have, SQL Server still has its own certification. Like, they break it up into like logical product or technology stack segments. This AWS exam, like, I had to know different Amazon database solutions. I had to know different Amazon container solutions. I had to know different VM types. I had to know networking. I had to know how they do IAM with their security controls. Like, it is a total kitchen sink exam, and I was really sweating it. And I'm glad that I got it done. But
Yeah.
for all my homies out there that are thinking about doing this versus like an Azure cert, I think the Azure certs are way fucking easier. Like, these AWS certs were no joke. So if you're thinking about it, like, reach out. I can definitely tell you how I prepared, and I know everybody learns a little bit differently, but yeah, man, it was tough. Oof.
Whew.
Yeah. I'm glad. I bet you're glad you don't have to do that shit anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to do
Yeah.
that shit anymore. Oh, yep. 100%.
Another topic here. I did finish Dredge.
Hey nerds, there's gonna be spoilers.
And
I got the bad ending first. 'Cause that's where
of
the
course,
game,
yeah.
that's where the game sort of pushes you, right? So spoiler horn if you want it.
Yeah.
But if you help that creepy guy get all the artifacts, he summons his dead wife from the ocean. But he also summons Cthulhu, and everything burns.
Yeah.
And that's it. But you kind of learn through the lore that apparently that's already happened once, I think. Yeah, and wounds were healing, but then it happens again. So I finished the game, and I didn't immediately go to a guide. I thought, okay, there were pursuits and there were things in my quest line that I hadn't done. So, like, those hooded figures on the islands?
Yep.
I went back to them. I found all their fish and turned them in. That didn't do it.
That didn't do it.
I found the dog and turned the dog in.
That doesn't do it.
Didn't do it. I found the old mayor, and that sort of gave me a clue.
Okay, you're close. Yep.
Yeah, that gave me a clue. And then I talked to the lighthouse keeper, and then I was like asking the guy on the island for the book. But then I had to go find all of the stone tablets. And then I got that huge light for the front of my ship, and I thought that would do something different, but it didn't. But then, you finally get the book off the guy, and
you have to do something very specific in that final conversation.
Oh, you do? I must have got it right on the first try then.
Okay, yeah.
But you get the book that he's been reading from the whole time, and you throw it into the water, and
quote unquote he.
Okay, yeah, that's the other twist. Apparently, it was you the whole time.
It was you the whole time.
It was you the whole time. You were looking at a mirror. Great game. Absolutely great game. Really liked it. Loved the aesthetic.
It's good.
Yeah. It was really, really good.
I'm glad you finished it. It's a good game.
Yep.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yep. I'm gonna switch the order of these ones because I've been talking a lot. So go ahead.
Okay. Mine is super quick. Okay. So the Macintosh computing system, the Mac, is celebrating, or just celebrated, its 40th anniversary.
I'm older than the Mac.
Yes. Okay. Oh, me too.
Yep.
Me too. There's been a lot of articles, a lot of reminiscing, a lot of people talking about their favorite Macs. I've read a lot of it, but I'm here to recommend one episode of the Upgrade podcast.
Okay.
It is episode 496. It is their 40th anniversary of the Mac draft. They brought in some really good guests, including John Gruber and John Siracusa.
Mm-hmm.
And they go around and there's different topics like first Mac, favorite Mac, I think there's like a Hall of Shame, like biggest Macs, Apple Mac snafu. They all go around, they reminisce about the Mac, they talk about it, they talk about lots of old Macs that I remember, they talk about some great modern Macs. It's just a great conversation. I really enjoyed the whole episode. I personally love the Upgrade podcast. I'm a supporter of it. It's a good one, but I just recommend this one episode, 496. There's a link in the show notes. It is like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
But it is worth, if you're a Mac fan at all, it's worth the listen. It's really good.
Interesting.
That's
yeah, I don't I'm kind of ashamed to say that I don't subscribe to Upgrade. I should.
Yeah. I like Upgrade. Yeah. It's a good podcast. I've listened to it for a very long time now. It's a good
yeah,
show.
It's interesting. I just kind of looking through the show notes here, and I mean, Apple did make some real stinkers when Steve Jobs left, like the whole Quadra and Performa lines, because like those were the Macs that my high school and middle school bought, and they just weren't very good. They just weren't very good.
And they talk about like the Macworld Expo after they had bought Next, and apparently like the current CEO, whatever it was, Scully at that time, was doing the keynote, but Steve Jobs was late, so he had to vamp and ramble on. Then they brought Steve Jobs on and Steve Wozniak to introduce them again, saying, "Hey, they're back." And then they gifted them the 20th anniversary Macintosh, which I don't know if you've ever seen that sucker, but it's literally an abomination of a Macintosh.
Yeah.
It's like, welcome back. Here's this monstrosity that you never would have built.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
wow.
Yeah. Good.
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Oh.
I'm actually on my I'm on my phone right now tapping subscribe to finally get into this.
Good. Okay, so before you go into this last topic, thank you very much for putting this in here, because I got to deal with that today.
All right.
Myself before the thing happened.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So the last topic is probably going to only matter to a few handful of people that listen to this podcast. But if there's one thing that Paul and I both love, it's a good domain name. The thing you type into your web browser, right? If you go like to doingtheirbest.com or .net or whatever we are, that's a domain name. Like we had to buy that. We had to buy that. Like my website, port1433.com, like that domain name is something I had to buy. Now, there are different services online that allow you to manage those domain names. And for as long as I can remember, I remember when I bought my very first domain name, the 100-pound gorilla in the room was what was the name of that? GoDaddy. Yeah.
GoDaddy?
I had it and then I lost it. So it was GoDaddy. Like GoDaddy did everything. From website hosting to domain registers, like they advertised the hell out of it. Like they were everything. But as I became kind of a centralized Google user for my home email and, just kind of having a Google account, that basically runs my life at this point, I started using Google domains. It was really easy to use. They gave you a really, really easy way to do things like dynamic DNS, DNSSEC, DNS privacy, the ability to set your own name servers if you wanted to. Like, it was all sort of managed through your Google account. Like I didn't need a separate account to manage it. It was just a really easy place to register and maintain your domains. And Paul, I think you use them quite a bit too, right?
No.
You
I
you were
had I
using
had I had one domain on there only because it was on sale from Google Domains.
okay.
I so I also used GoDaddy way back in the day, but the service I use now is Hover. I use
Hover,
Hover.
that's the
Hover.
one.
I use Hover. Yeah, I use Hover. You can do domain registration. You can do DNS. You can do some basic stuff there. Uh, yeah, I had one DNS entry at Google Domains, and that was doing their best.
Got it.
Yep. Yep.
So
Which
I
is no
had
longer on Google Domains.
yeah, so I had like 5 domains on there. I had my website domain, which was originally registered when through Bluehost because that's who does my website hosting. But just to have them all centralized, like
Okay.
I took
Yeah.
the domain registrar from them and moved it over to Google. I have a couple other domains that I use for things. Mostly what I have those domains for is a place to get back to my house. So I use dynamic DNS a lot. I don't know if you do.
Yes. Kinda. Yeah.
So the idea of dynamic DNS is that the whole reason that we have domain names is nobody can remember IP addresses. So like instead of typing 192.168 blah 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 to get to our website or my personal website or Google or whatever, you type in the web address like an actual word, usually
Mhm.
like a gentleman.
Like a gentleman.
And there's a whole really important system of computers that basically know like here's like the internet address location of where that thing lives. Now, if you are like me and you like to have geeky stuff in your house, or you have a security system that isn't like something that you pay a third party service for, you usually need a way so that if I'm out and about and not at my house and I want to like look at my security cameras, or I want to like host a game server in my house for other people to connect to, rather than just hand out my IP address to people, would it be great if I could have a domain name that basically resolves to that address and do it that way? I mean, that's how businesses work. I mean, that's how the internet was designed to sort of work. But the problem is that your home internet address changes or can change. It doesn't necessarily change all the time, but it can change. So like if I go today and I create a domain name and I point it to my home IP address, it'll work until like power goes out or I switch ISPs or some event causes my IP address to change. Everything breaks, right? And I have to manually go out to all these consoles, which again, this is Google. I go into Google and I have to update manually to my new IP address to make everything work again.
Yeah, and you have to understand some basics of DNS because
it's not straightforward.
It's not straightforward.
Like
and if you fuck it up, it broke.
DNS is such an important like I've talked to people about this who aren't necessarily computer people, and I'm like, the number one thing that can fuck up your life is if DNS isn't working. Like you have no idea how upside down your world becomes when someone breaks DNS. Like you might have been subject to it. Like there might have been a time where something wasn't working right at work, and I promise you it was probably DNS. Right? It happens all the time.
It happens. Yeah.
Well, the whole idea behind dynamic DNS is that you can have a service that periodically just says, "Hey, I'm over here," and it automatically tells services like Google where your domain names are registered, like here's where I point. And a lot of times it doesn't change. It's just like, "Hey Google, I'm over here," and Google's like, "Yeah, I know." Or like you say, "Hey Google, now I'm over here," and it says, "Oh, well that's different. Let me update everything for you." And like it's kind of hands off. And most modern cable modems or cable routers from like your internet provider have this capability. Like there is probably a section in your home router that you got from your ISP that has dynamic DNS, and you tell it like, here's what service I want to update. Here's the API key or the password that I have to use to connect to it. And it does everything. There's also third-party applications you can run at home to do that. Like that is a thing. Like if you are even like an intermediate level geek, you probably have messed with this at some point. All right. Anyway, I say this all in service of is that I have 4 domain names. I have my blog website, I have my business domain name, and I have 2 other domain names that I use for home labbing purposes. All 4 of those are hosted on Google domains. Now, Google sold their domain business to
He
Squarespace.
sure did.
And I have nothing against Squarespace. I really, truly don't. I work with a lot of small business owners that use Squarespace. It's a perfectly fine service. You know, if you are selling particular products or if you are even selling your time, like, look, you can do a hell of a lot worse. Like, you really don't need to know that much about web development or anything to get started building a website where people can go and give you money. Like, it works. Like, it is a service. Do I think that they are going to be a good domain registrar place that I want my domains? No, probably not.
Probably not. No.
Because what happened was, and I knew that this was coming, but I received 4 emails. I received 4 emails this week saying, hey, heads up, you got to change your shit. Because apparently Squarespace is not going to support dynamic DNS.
Of course not, because why would they? Yeah.
And I'm sure that Google ran a report that says, here's all the domain names that we have where people are using dynamic DNS. We better send an email to these people to let them know that when we migrate, like, your dynamic DNS can break. And if you are hosting something really critical at home, and I'm not necessarily hosting anything critical at home, but if you have a dependency on this, this could fuck you up. So I took it upon myself to say, all right, you know what? It's time to move. It's time to get off of Google domains. Like, I want to take my ball and I want to go somewhere else, right?
I did that literally today.
Yeah. So I decided to migrate all my stuff to Cloudflare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Cloudflare has a really good, DNS service. They have a lot of good services, and I didn't realize like how much they had added since the last time I took a really hard look at Cloudflare. But I'm in the process of migrating all my domains over there now. Because this is me we're talking about, it's never straightforward. So 2 of my domains, the ones that are really heavy dynamic DNS, those are already moved. Those are done. There was nothing fancy about them. Like, I literally went into the Google console, updated the name servers, waited like 15 minutes, and Cloudflare's like, yep, I can take those. No problem. So they're already over there. Now, my blog website is being a little bit finicky because it has certain records that are tied to like my mail and tied to my web hosting and some other records that I think Bluehost added for some reason. I don't know why they're there. I actually have been emailing tech support today to figure out like why they're there, because apparently like migrating those are going to be a problem. I seriously don't understand why. So that one hasn't moved yet. And then my business one was a really, really special case, because when I signed up to buy that domain name, I signed up for a promotional rate for Google Workspace.
Oh.
Okay, so again, for all my people out there that haven't done this, right? When I created my consulting side business, I decided to just buy a cheap-ass Google Workspace plan, a place where I can have Gmail, a place where I can have Docs, a little bit of drive storage, and I have that tied to my domain name. So if you email drew@dublinData.net, like, it goes to my Gmail address. I can like send you documents. I can do all kinds of stuff. It's all tied to that. But I got a really good deal on that. It was like $6 a month for Google Workspace Starter.
Oh yeah, that's a good
because
deal.
Because I bought it at the same time I bought my domain name. Now, if I decouple this, I no longer get that rate, and I have to do a bunch of other shit to get this thing to migrate, because it has DNSSEC turned on. It has all these other custom records for like MX and all this other stuff that most of those are going to move just fine. But like, I had to like turn off DNSSEC, update the name servers. I have to wait till like Tuesday to be able to migrate this. And even then, I'm going to have to like go back into this after it migrates, go to my Google console, re-verify my domain, make sure it didn't move. I also have stuff tied to Azure for this. Like, my Azure tenant uses that domain. So like, that is like proving to be a really, really difficult thing to move. So I spent the last couple of days trying to get all this stuff to move, and it has proven to be a nightmare. And I just don't understand why Google had to move this. Like, why did they look at Squarespace and say, you can do this, right? Like,
it was probably the company that offered them the most money.
I mean, Google has a history of this. It's part of the reason I don't like Google as a company, even though I just got done saying all the things that I said about having a workspace and having email and everything. look, it was a different time. Gmail was really popular. Like, you know, it's kind of like getting a tattoo you regret, right? Like it's with me forever. Like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to create a whole new email account in the year 2024 and start over. Think about that. Like, think about all the stuff is tied to your email address right now. Like, if you created a new email address, first of all, are you part of services that will let you even update that email address? And secondly, even if you did, how many of them could you write down right now that use that email address? Like, it is a huge pain in the ass to migrate off of that. So I'm in the process of going through all that. Like I said, 2 of them are moved, 2 of them are not. But if you have a domain name registered through Google, I highly, highly advise you to get them out of there. And yeah, you did.
I did before. Mine hadn't switched over to Squarespace yet, but I had the email saying it was going to happen at some time. You put that topic in there. I'm like, oh, I should do that right now.
How long did it take you?
So, okay. It is.
Is it pending?
So it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yes and no. So the actual domain ownership has transferred, but it's in that limbo state right now where it's still using Google's name servers, and that hasn't switched over yet. So it'll probably be like tomorrow before it's all done. But it was, I mean, it's really easy. You unlock it, you get a code, you paste it in there, boom, move.
Yeah, like
so. But the actual like transfer of ownership took like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that part was pretty quick. And like the 2 that I moved were pretty quick. Like there was that 15-minute waiting period where like it finally saw the name servers change somewhere, and it was like, yeah, I can take those. And then like, you know, I had to set up a whole Cloudflare cloud, you know, a whole billing account over. Like I had to go through all of that before I could get to that state. But they have a free tier. They just need a billing account on file for like renewals. So
yeah, dude. Cloudflare is awesome. We use that for work, and it is phenomenal. So
that
I just wish they weren't just losing money hand over fist.
Yeah, I mean, I did a quick search of like best DNS like registrars 2024, and like I got first of all, I mean, there were obviously a lot of good. Like I think Hover was on there, Cloudflare was on there, GoDaddy was still there. I didn't know they were still in business. But it also like took me to a Reddit thread where people were bitching about Google domains going away, and like everybody was like unanimously kind of like suggesting Cloudflare, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. So that's how I wound up there.
Yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I would also go to Cloudflare. Yeah. So
all right, well, I have to go out and lay in my truck bed because I'm a truck guy now. Yeah, I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna go out there and just talk to my truck because that's what truck guys do. So get us out of here.
Hey, everybody check out the website doingtheirbest.com. There'll be show notes, social links, all kinds of great stuff out there. And hey, just thanks for listening, and go truck.
Yeah. First of all, what's my name?
Mr. Truck.
No, I'm sorry, it's Dr. Truck. I didn't spend 6 years in truck medical school to be called Mr. Truck.
Dr. Truck. Right. Sorry, my bad. I won't make that mistake again, Dr. Truck.